Afternoon, everyone. Good Tuesday. How's it going? Once again, we're getting to this one just a little bit late, but we are getting to it. It is Front Office Tuesday, Personnel Decisions Tuesday, and we're almost to the end, so I think we can kind of start to finally form our takes on things, right? We should have a pretty good idea of whether or not the front office made correct decisions in the most recent offseason. And I'm not just talking about the fact that the team is not good, so therefore they must have done things wrong. That is certainly the case, but we got to be more specific than that. So let's jump in, starting with the free agent re-signings. Chris Carson obviously hasn't played in a long time. He played fairly well when he did play, but overall that looks like a bit of wasted money. Alex Collins, his season is now officially over. He almost got to 500 yards, which is probably about 400 yards more than I expected him to have this year. But I didn't expect Chris Carson to miss basically the whole season. So there you go. Collins played fairly well, I think. Not great. A lot of the problem, I think, was just the run blocking when he was playing was not good. The addition of Jake Curhan into the lineup has changed things dramatically. I think that if if Collins got to play with Curhan, we might be talking about a different story here. But yeah, Collins' season is over. He's on IR, will not play this year. So that's it for both of them. Ethan Pocic, the first guy who actually played in this most recent game against the Lions, and he played very well. He played the whole game. PFF grade jumped up like 3.5 points to 67.3. Now, we got to talk about this because Posic's a free agent this offseason, and we know we need a center, and I think we all want to do better than Pocic. But I will say this for Pocic. He is playing fairly well right now. He's mostly gotten better as this season has gone on. Things started out kind of rough for him in that first game where he only played a little bit, gave up a sack, and then he got hurt. But Pocic, I don't know how the team is going to look at him right now. He's not playing badly. PFF thinks he's playing well. They've given him so far a much better grade than they gave him last year. He's only allowed 2 sacks. He's had 1 penalty, and he's going to end up playing about 600 snaps after this upcoming game. So it's a pretty decent sample size to look at. And I don't know how this team is going to make a judgment here. This is going to be kind of interesting because Posick, I've always kind of passively defended him as not being as bad as a lot of people think that he is. But I also don't want to make a long-term commitment to him this offseason. So I don't know if maybe the team is going to decide they want to find a center more suitable for this offense, but very interested to see what we do here. All right, next up would be Poona Ford, who got up to a 750 snaps, almost to 50 tackles, and in this most recent game, he did add a QB hit, which doesn't sound like a big deal, and it's not really, but when you only have 3 on the season, I guess getting to number 4 is significant. So Poona Ford's up to a 72.2 on the PFF meter, having a good season. There are some caveats there. Obviously, the dude can't rush the passer very well at all. The 3-tech experiment is a disaster, but he is a good player and he has added value to this team. He is one of the spearheads behind our I think in terms of yards per carry, number 2 run defense in the NFL. 3.8 yards a carry, really good. So hopefully we can put Poona in better positions next year. Carlos Dunlap barely played and didn't accrue any. No, wait, he had 1 tackle for loss, so that was good. But then he got hurt, came out. I don't think we're going to see him again this year, and I don't want to see him again this year. We know what Dunlap is at this point fairly well, and if he's hurt, I mean, being hurt is the part of the reason why he wasn't contributing before this last month, probably. So. He ends up with a PFF grade of 72.4, which is quite good, quite strong. So I think we will probably bring him back next year, but I don't need to see him anymore this year. I think I know what's going on here. Benson Mayowa played some, didn't record any stats, and his PFF grade basically stayed the same. Benson Mayowa, one of the all-time great Jags in the NFL. Just another guy, and that's it for free agent re-signings. Let's go to the signings and trade acquisitions, starting with Gerald Everett, who had a pretty decent game. He had 3 catches for, what was it, like 36 yards? Yeah, 36 yards. Catch percentage went down a little bit, but overall he's still having a solid year. PFF grade 64.5, and that's with him having the game from hell against the Niners. So even though Everett missed 2 games, and even though he had the game from hell, if he plays well against the Cardinals next week, he may end up being a 5-5-5 guy. 5 touchdowns, 50 receptions, and 500 yards. Very reasonable for him to get there with 1 game left. So I don't know if we're going to bring him back next year or not, but I would like to. He's a good player, got some talent. And if we do decide to run it back, which is totally possible, I think Everett could be a lot better next year with the pieces around him having more familiarity with this offense. Gabe Jackson, for the first time this year, missed a significant chunk of the game. I think he just came out in garbage time, but played most of the game. No sacks allowed, no penalties. PFF grade still solid, 63.6. Fine. Decent enough player. Like him. Good run blocker. Big part of the reason why the right side of the line is run blocking so well lately. Next up would be Al Woods, and he actually got some limited snaps in this game. I'm guessing he's starting to wear down because of his age, and he's been playing a lot this year. But he did get up to 50 tackles. He picked up, just the 1 tackle. But PFF grade dropped a little bit, but it's still up around 76. And one thing that's worth pointing out here is that our 2 main defensive tackles this year, Pocic and Woods, are both going to have at least 50 tackles this year, almost certainly. Puna's almost certainly going to get there next week, and Al Woods is already there. And I don't put a lot of stock into stuff like tackle count for a defensive lineman, but when you combine that with the fact that our run defense has been so good ever since really week 4 or week 5, it's commendable. This team is stopping the run very well overall, and Poona Ford and Al Woods are a big part of the reason why they're doing a good job there. So the fact that both those guys are going to get to about 50-plus tackles, I take something from that. They're both doing their job well. Carrie Hyder got back this week, didn't play that much. I think he played like 27 snaps. Picked up a QB hit and a couple tackles. Pretty forgettable game otherwise. His PFF grade did go up to about 57, but still playing pretty forgettable football lately. At this point, I don't know what to make of Carrie Hyder. Like, he's not expensive to bring back next year, but it is $2 million you could spend somewhere else if you feel like he's just a whatever player. So, Carrie Hyder, I don't think he's bad, but he seems a little jaggy to me, a little more jaggy than I was expecting, and that's disappointing. And, bless you, one Austin, Sidney Jones did not play. So, moving on to our draft picks and UDFAs, as always, this segment is going to be quick. Eskridge played a decent chunk of snaps, at least. He played 24 snaps. He touched the ball twice, picked up 37 yards, including that end around where he almost got his second career touchdown, but almost doesn't cut it. Nevertheless, he did have some degree of an impact in that game. Not a big one. I would have liked to have seen better, but it doesn't always work out that way. PFF grade did go up a little bit to 59. It's just kind of a lost season for Dwayne Eskridge at the end of the day, and we got to just hold on and hope that next year's better. The only other rookie to play was Jake Curhan. He did allow 1 sack. I remember the play. He definitely seemed like he gave up something on that play. It's just a situation where he got beat, but otherwise he held up well, and he continues to run block well. His PFF grade jumped up a couple points to 52.6, and if you take out the 49ers game where he was playing guard, when we all know he shouldn't be playing guard, he's a tackle, his PFF grade is probably up close to 60. So he keeps getting better, and there's definitely some upside here. I'm excited to see where this goes now, and he should probably be the de facto starter next year. All right, that just leaves the free agent departures. Shaq Griffin did not play. I think he's on the COVID list, so I don't know if he's going to play next week either, but it doesn't really matter that much at this point. He ended up having a pretty solid year for Jacksonville, played almost 900 snaps. No interceptions, which is troubling, but overall his coverage numbers were respectable on a pretty awful team. Jerron Reed played, He played 48 snaps. Picked up a few tackles, including a couple of QB hits and a sack, so he's up to 2.5 on the year. But his PFF grade will not budge. I don't know what Jerron Reed did to PFF. I'm guessing there's a lot of things going on in the run defense with the Chiefs that is really keeping Reed's PFF grade down, but things are just not going well for him in that regard right now at all, and even double-digit QB hits can't save the dude. So, not a player that I'm terribly missing right now. I know that some people are looking at the struggles of this team and thinking, should we have done this? Should we have done that? And sometimes they do make good points, but when it comes to retaining guys like Jerron Reed and KJ Wright, I'm just not seeing it. Speaking of KJ Wright, he played a relatively minor chunk of snaps against the, what was it? Oh, the Colts. 27 snaps for the Raiders. He picked up a couple tackles too. And his PFF grade went up a little bit to 61.8. So his season is just about over. He's probably going to get to about 400 snaps at the end of this Chargers game. And he might get to about 50 tackles. I'm just not seeing anything that I think would have moved the needle this year. I know some people are saying we should have kept KJ Wright. We should have kept KJ Wright. I'm not seeing that. I see a lot of things that we should have done and a lot of things we should not have done. But keeping KJ Wright is not on that list for me. He's clearly in a different phase of his career. Carlos Hyde did not play, pretty much shelved at this point for the Jaguars. Trey Flowers played a little bit, like 15 snaps, picked up 2 tackles, gave up 2 catches. PFF grade basically maintains equilibrium from where it was here, so he's replacement level-ish, not outing himself as anything atrocious like some people think that he is, but not really a good player either. So we'll see if he has a role to play for the Bengals in the playoffs, because they've obviously clinched. And that's it for Front Office Tuesday. So you see some of the positive things here. You see some of the things that kind of scare you a little bit. But the team, it's like they kind of just find ways to mess up what is a good thing, right? Like Poona Ford, he's having a really good year. But you move him to 3-tech, and the things that he can't do are more pronounced, and the things that he can do matter a little bit less, right? Gabe Jackson, you get him, and he's playing pretty well, but getting him forces you to move Damian Lewis to left guard where he's struggling. It's things like that more than it is the raw performance of these players. All right, I'm out of here. Peace out, go Hawks. See you guys in stream later.